evening and welcome to another edition of Roadhouse Live. We are live. Today is July the 10th, 2023. Bender, how is your world on this July 10?
I don't know. It's too early for me to answer that. I mean, I'm awake, so I guess it's all right.
Well, that's
Pretty good. I got out of bed. I made it.
You
Day's
made your
half
bed?
over.
Who?
No, I made it out of bed.
Oh, out of bed. Okay. Who makes the
My
bed
wife
in
was
your
still
house?
sleeping.
Oh,
If I'm being honest, most of the time nobody.
really?
No,
That's
we
very
jumped out of.
surprising for somebody who likes things to be in order and like in the right place the way that you are. I'm very, very surprised by that.
Yeah, but I get out of bed pretty early most of the time, and my wife is still sleeping. And usually about the time that she gets up, like the kids are, you know, doing what kids do. They're breakfast and getting ready, and it's yeah. So that's one of the things that honestly we typically make the bed right before we get in it. It's like, all right, let's shake everything out, straighten it all up. Okay, now we can go to sleep.
So I'm going to give you something here. Okay. You need to make a deal with the wife as far as the last person out of bed has to make the bed. And if they don't, there's a fine associated with it.
Dude, I have way too many things going on, moving pieces and parts, and like
But
that
if you're
is
but
not
if
a
you're the
priority.
one who's always out of bed first and she's the one the last person out, it's a win for you. You win
Like,
across the board.
well, yeah, I don't, nah.
All right, just trying to help. So in other news,
No,
other
I'd rather
than
have breakfast.
you can have both.
Be like, whoever gets out of bed last. But then see, I usually eat before she's even up. So no, I don't think
You
this.
keep on kicking yourself in
There's,
the dick over there, and you really
there's
don't
not a
even
win
realize
here.
it. Yeah,
There's not a
there's
win
a
here.
win. You're just not willing to go get, but that's fine. That's a story for another day. The main
Okay.
story going on right now in the world, Bender, is that there really is not a story going on in the world right now. Yellen returning from China says, "Hey, we're going to agree to disagree, but still agree to keep on talking, so it'll be fine. No worries, no big deal." Um, they're upset about us limiting technology. They're upset over that, and we're upset the fact that if we don't give it to them, they're just going to steal it. So there's, I don't know what you do with that. In Europe, there's more and more signs of a pending, wait for it, Bender, recession. HSBC downgraded a bunch of companies over there over the weekend. So Europe is looking a little bit, I don't want to say shaky, but they're not on the same footing. And if you're looking at some of the inflation data that's been coming out recently, specifically in Europe, it's not pulling back to the same degree. And so they've been a little bit more hawkish with rates and conversations surrounding rates than what we have been. We're a little bit more neutral while still admitting that we have a lot of work to do. This takes us to what this week is really all about, for the most part, is Fed speaker galore. We get Fed speaker left, right, sideways, just a sheer and utter bombardment this week of Fed speak. They're going to be saying words, Bender. Lots and lots of words. Do you care to guess what those words shall be?
No, I do not. But did you like that video I posted on Twitter? I mean, you were like, was that a direct quote? I think I was pretty close to what your remarks were.
It
Would
pretty
you care to
much
comment
is.
on that?
Well, yeah, yeah, no, I can comment on it. It's like it's one of those things. So it's like they make a mess, the Fed, right? They congratulate themselves over the mess and they realize that they made a mess. Then they start making a bigger mess in order to fix the mess that they create, all the while running around exactly like that circle that you posted, butt sniffing, slapping each other on the back, saying, "Hey, we're really great. We're doing the work of the people, even though our plan is to destroy the people. I would have preferred if they looked a little bit more villainous instead of, cute little animals. If there were some villain like cockroaches, like if there were cockroaches running around in a circle, I'd be like, yeah, no, that about fits them. Bottom dwelling scum of the earth. That about fits the Fed in every capacity. So yeah, no, I did appreciate, but it's like painting them as being cute little fuzzy little, happy go lucky. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
That's not really, how I was, how I
didn't think
interpreted
that
that.
you were. However,
Obviously,
the fact that they were sitting
yeah.
there chaining each other or docking or whatever the kids call it nowadays, is really, really, it kind of highlights everything that's going on within our overall system. And that's where it becomes really frustrating because as traders, it's like we want to be aware of what's going on, but it doesn't seem to matter what these cats say or do. The market is taken on, its own identity that is kind of void of anything Fed related at this point. But that's what takes us to things that are important, like the chart that you're going to throw up here in a couple of seconds. As far as understanding, it's like, hey, did we double top up there? Do we continue to walk up to new levels of resistance and pull back? Is there an area down below that it's targeting? Because it feels like at this point that some of the momentum on this rally is dissipating. So the question is, as we kind of pull back to chop around, what are we doing here, Bender? What's going on?
Yeah, let me throw the chart up here. All right, should be able to see that. That's a 4-hour chart. And actually, what I want to show here, let's go to a daily. See how we have these, looking at the daily here, you can see where I've drawn out these volume imbalances where it's just, there's no body of these candles. It's just the wicks that are in here. I left those on there. I'm going to remove them in a second. But I left them on there because, when we go into a 15-minute and we look at those, it's like, this chop in here. If I go to a 60-minute, you can see like these big candles, down and through. It's just a good example of, in my opinion, of kind of zooming out to get perspective, because when all of this is going on, Friday's move was we talked about Friday morning. We talked about potential for, sort of seek and destroy. What I was not expecting was that huge move up in the morning to take out the high, and then late in the day, all the way back down. Right, that was kind of crazy. But when you zoom out, and it gives you perspective of kind of where we're at and what we're doing. And what has my attention this morning, going back to the daily here, is this down candle right here. And I'll get rid of this volume imbalance now. We don't need that anymore. But this down candle here that wicked, all the way down into, was it 44.20? We would look at that candle as being sort of one-sided, but then the very next candle, you can see wicked all the way back up into it, but ultimately closed down, right? And I've said before, I'll say it again, I don't teach ICT stuff. I don't consider myself to be an expert. I use some of the principles, the stuff that, I've picked up on that kind of makes sense to me, and I combine that with things that I look at. So, but one of the things that I have heard him talk about is when you have these candles that get filled on the very next candle, and I don't know if this applies to the daily, to be honest, but I've heard him talk about it on multiple time frames. But when you get that, a lot of times the next move is a continuation move. So in this case, like down, and then you had that wick up, then I think the expectation is that the next move would be lower from there. That could be wrong. If it is, sorry. I don't need anybody saying that I got these concepts wrong or I shouldn't be teaching them, because I'm not. But that has my attention. Stonkington may know more about what I'm talking about and may have a little more. I think he's further into some of this stuff, so he probably has a pretty good idea. Maybe shouldn't say probably.
Yeah, Stonk is a really good resource when it comes to this kind of stuff.
Yeah. That aside, when I'm looking at this, I am going to pay attention to this volume imbalance in here, see if we can clear it, and if that can become support. That's 44.47. We're currently sitting 44.33 half. So we'll go back to a 15-minute now. We know that's sitting up there. If I go back to the 15-minute, we've got our lows here from early in the morning, 44.11.25. We got that shaded area that we were just talking about right up in here, 44.40. I have a couple here on the 60-minute. You can see the top of this down close candle here, this 60-minute fair value gap. So the top of that is sitting 44.60. That also marks the top of this 60-minute fair value gap. This one has obviously, we've traded back through it, but this area right in here, contains that 60-minute fair value gap, the fair value gap on this 60-minute up candle, and another fair value gap on this 60-minute down candle. So it's like, even going back to these candles, right? It's like this area, 44.50 up to 44.60, like those 10 handles in there, the candles that pass through that area are pretty jerky, right? Like when it's going through that range, it fires up and then fires down, right? Fires up, fires down. So this area, that's a big area of interest for me to keep an eye on. If we zoom in further, just to kind of set up the morning, get that 60-minute fair value gap right there, 44.36.25, that you can see we so far have been unable to reclaim or get through. If it gets through that, we get a candle that closes above that, it's probably going to close in some of this candle here, if not all of it, up to that 44.60. And if it gets through the top of that fair value gap, then it's likely at that point to take out this high at 44.76.25. And then the real test to continue the up move is up here. We got to get, back over 4,500, and then we can continue, the upside momentum. Last thing I'll say is that, going back to, 2 weeks ago, we were talking about, or last week even, perhaps, we were talking about, as long as the candles on the 60-minute are trending down, then we short the pops or expect that to continue until it reverses. And we can see it reversed here. And then we had all these 60-minute candles that were closing, making higher highs and higher lows. Well, right now, these candles on the 60-minute, this is tough price action right in here, because they like to drop it. They're dropping it, consolidate, stop out everybody that was up in here, ultimately to take it lower, right? But at the moment, this kind of looks like it, like you said, like momentum has kind of waned a bit, that upside momentum, and now we're in, either just kind of consolidation, drift lower until, we start to see signs of reversal again and heading north. We're still inside this bigger, longer term channel right here, that dotted line marking the midpoint of that.
There's just no sense of urgency anywhere on that chart.
Right. Yeah.
It's like
I think you can.
There's nothing there.
Yeah. Take this. This area right in here is, what is that? 18 points, 17 points, something like that. For me, that kind of marks the. This is 4 hour, but this kind of marks the pivot area, right? Above that, it starts to look bullish. If it can't maintain in here or get through here and it rejects and starts, then it's like, okay, no, we're not ready to go back up here yet. So I'll be kind of watching this, where this shaded blue box is. This is kind of the pivot area for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Probably even scale this down a little bit to those candles right there. So call it about 10 points or so in here, that if we get above and we hold it, it starts to look good. And, anything below it. And we still have this new week opening gap that's hanging down here, 43.89-ish. So I would say that, if we break that pre-market low, 44.11, we're probably going to get the 4,400 test. Get below 4,400, 10 points lower, you have that new week opening gap, and then this candle's low right here, 43.6875.
Yeah.
That's about it.
Yeah, no, it's like the chart that you're putting up there, it's like it's so indicative of what's been going on. It's like, at least from the standpoint of flow and looking at it, it's like we're to the point now with a lot of the flow that a lot of the heavy names, the big names, the important names that move the market, their flow is, I would say, more choppish than directional at this point. As far as mega cap, I think Apple being the one that's really, really interesting. It's either up 1% or down 1%, just depending on the day. And I do believe Apple has a date with this 187 area that should provide pretty good support and a bounce there. But it's like there's a lot of things coming, like kind of merging together and through here, with earnings season kicking off on Friday. And, once that happens, all bets are off in a lot of ways. With some of the flow, it becomes very like, okay, so what are we doing? Really great chart, Bender. It's like, to me, it looks like the market is, if nothing else, wanting to just chill as opposed to push the highs. But as we've all come to see, when we start to see that, they can come in and push Apple to the upside, push Microsoft to the upside, sell everything else off, and the market stays stable. They can just do it.
I mean, and the other thing is, I've got the 618 here labeled, that 618 retracement, 61.8% of this up move, right? We talked about this last week. If they want to run the same program, which was, pull back to 50%, between 50% and 61.8%, and then fire. Now it did drop just below that, but that was in, overnight / pre-market session. So there is still the chance that this is what it was going for, was the 618. It got the bounce right off it on Friday. That's where we bounced, right? We came down 618, and then let's see, was that Friday? That was the 6th. Oh, Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah. So we got that bounce, consolidate, and then made this push up to fill in this fair value gap, and then sold back down. So, there's still a chance that it's kind of consolidating in that area, kind of like it did in here before firing, right? So I'll be keeping an eye on that. It did, after making the bounce off the 618, it came down and made a lower low, which it didn't do in here. I think this was the 50% retracement. So for me, it's like, okay, can we bust through that 4440 area? Or, are we going to break down back below that 618 and then ultimately take out those pre-market lows?
Yeah. Yep. All right. I dig it. Anything else?
Nope.
Stonkington, Paging Stonkington, what you got, buddy?
Hello, I'm here. I'm awake. Let's get some stuff going. Here we go. Let's get the share set up. It's Monday. We got some stuff happening. Last week, new world record. We've got a new app that has been the fastest of all time to hit 1 million users. Any guesses? We got a top 5 here, actually, if you guys really want to get some guesses going.
An app?
New app that hit 1 million users in record time. 1.5 hours to get 1 million users.
Isn't that going to be the Zuck shit?
It is. Threads.
All right. So that was an easy
1.5
one.
hours. So what do you guys think? I got the top 5 here. Threads took 1.5 hours. Any other guesses? Who's in the top? Yeah, Mint Dragon. That was going to be Threads. Fastest to 1 million users. No, Tinder wasn't on there, actually.
What's the was it Bumble?
Not on there. Freeman and Richie just got number 2. Chat GPT that took 5 days to get 1 million users. So Threads 1.5 hours. Chat GPT 5 days. Bricks on Grinder.
Wait, so we're not just talking about a mobile app?
No, there's some.
Okay, all right.
I mean, most of them are, but so we went Threads 1.5 hours. Chat GPT 5 days.
Bricktop Grinder was the one that was actually the one that I was thinking of. That's what I was trying to remember the name of it.
I don't like this game. This is stupid. Hurry up.
All right, moving on. Let's get into some ICT stuff. Boring. All right, the rest were what was it? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Netflix. Netflix took 3.5 years to get 1 million users. That came in at number 5. All right, so I talked through this briefly on Friday, but I wanted to take another look at it because I actually went, I was noticing this with the fair value gaps that work as inversion gaps. I explained it on voice and then went back and found a video that actually he confirmed what I was noticing. So that was kind of cool. So we'll just go one at a time through these. Let's see. All right. So we'll start with this one on the 10-minute. So if we were, say, here, my first thought would be we would be looking for this moving into this area to work as resistance, as a fair value gap. Rejected right in here the first time, but would just be watching this range as we pull up into it. And what we're waiting for is candles to react. And then ultimately, if it's going to work as an inversion gap, would be a candle to close above the range based on time. So in this instance, we got it. And what I commented on voice yesterday, which I then went back and confirmed over the weekend in some of his videos, is that once you do get that candle closed past the level, it's very possible that it doesn't come back into this range. This could have already been the signal for us to continue upside, which in this case, that happened. So if we get rid of this, and then we go over to some of these on the 5-minute, it did it again. And we'll look at those examples really quick here. So if we swap over to the 5 minute, there's our 5 minute gaps. So first time it worked as support. Still at this point, I would have been thinking this whole area would work as support. And then as we go back here, when this candle closes, and I mentioned that one on Voice on Friday, then we'd be looking for this area to work as resistance, which it did, and it doesn't necessarily have to go back into the range. Next magnet below would be this purple box, fair value gap. Same thing again. Once it closes below, it doesn't need to go all the way back into the range. It could just kind of keep going, which it did. So that's going to be something, I mentioned on Voice on Friday, something I was kind of getting more confidence in. And it appears to be, that's part of his kind of whole theory there is once we look at a gap based on a certain time frame, we see the candle close past the gap, we don't necessarily need to move back into the range for the continuation move. So that was something I just wanted to highlight there because it was what I kind of saw and then verified going back through some of his stuff. So just going to kind of keep that in mind as we look at new gaps this week and stuff like that. So here's the NASDAQ on an hourly. Pink box is going to be our new week opening gap, which we've already run up and tagged. So if we're going to push to the upside, I'd want to see us go through that. And then this would be the first upside target, basically the big push down from the end of last week. And then for downside targets, we can kind of see some of these fair value gaps forming out. So this would be a first downside target, 15,141.75. And then we've got a little gap down there with room down to 102.75. And then this 4 hour order block type line, you can see kind of the midpoint of this candle before a big push up has been working as support. So if we're going to push down aggressively, I'd be watching that 84.50 there on NASDAQ. So that's kind of what we'll be looking for. I mean, Friday's price action may be hinting at some potential for NASDAQ big tech getting a little bit tired. So we'll see. And then, which would then have me focusing on the Russell. Just thinking about some of the big movers from last week, it was like Rivian, some of the smaller stuff. Flow wise, we saw them buying AI. So we'll see if it kind of translates into a move on the Russell this week. Pink line here is the new week opening gap. And then let's see, look like some hourly fair value gaps here. This make it look a little clearer. So for downside targets, if we're going to push down, this would be the first line I'd be looking for. 1865.40. If we're going to go up, here would be the first one above 1885.60. And then I'm just going to kind of watch to see what we get for flow. We got our order block lines here. This has been an important one below. So yeah, just going to kind of keep an eye on that. Let's see if we jump over to, I was going to go back and look at Apple on kind of a cleaner chart. Apple was a weekly inside bar. So it's kind of like, I wonder with Apple, looking at some of these other weekly candles, it's like we might be coming up into an area where Apple just needs to kind of build out some structure. Maybe with a weekly inside bar, if we broke the low, we could get some momentum, or maybe we could go get more all-time highs. But I would wonder if Apple maybe needs to consolidate a little bit. Just because we can see it takes a lot of small candles before we get a big move. So kind of gonna see what we get over there. If we jump over the other interesting weekly inside bar, let's see. This is kind of a more drilled down view of Apple. Maybe if it wants to be a big bull flag, I'd be watching this area, this 189.80. And then if we had to push down, it looks like we probably have something down here around 188.70 kind of thing. Maybe something like that. If you wanted to take Apple short, I'd be watching for this reaction to this area right here. The other one that was interesting, I just mostly have alerts set on this one. It's going to be Roblox. Roblox was a weekly inside bar and really clear, obvious range that I think we could see a nice move if we get a break. But it's just kind of banging in between these two fibs here. So we're going to have alerts pop in the room, 4270 versus 3870. Just really obvious on Roblox that it's stuck here. So that's one I'm going to be kind of keeping an eye on or waiting for those alerts. Other than that, I don't have much else. I'm just going to kind of watch flow and see what we get.
Yeah, I think that's where we're at. It's like we haven't really gone anywhere as far as the indexes. We have seen flow go into the names that you mentioned and a handful of others. So some of the money that's being pumped right now and the names that we're seeing right now were the beat down dog trash names of the market, right? It's like Rivian was at 170 and then it was down to like 10. Okay,
Right.
so it moves to 30. Cute. It's like we've seen flow into Nikola. We're seeing flow into names like, and I don't want to call Roblox trash necessarily, but it was an afterthought in a lot of ways. What we have also seen is a slowdown in flow when it comes to things like Shop. Apple Flow has absolutely cooled. Microsoft Flow has absolutely cooled. NVIDIA Flow is a battleground, but NVIDIA is not exactly pushing higher highs over there within the moment. And these are the tickers that really help make the move to the upside. We did get a smattering of Phantom Prints this morning, all to the downside. Some debate as to whether or not those were filled pre-market or not on some of these wicks, some of these candles down that fired right back. Some debate within all that, but ultimately we'll see when we get there. Very interesting time as we walk into an ER season to where expectations have to be about as high as they can possibly be for a lot of these tickers. Have to be. So we'll see how it plays out. The one thing that we do and have said over the past couple of weeks is even if you know exactly what the data print is going to be, even if you know exactly what the ER results are going to be to the nickel, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to get the price action correctly. So with all that being said, we just need to stay very, very aware of how they want to push the money and what they're trying to do. And some of the chart work that both Bender and Stonkington are putting out there is absolutely exceptional. So, fellas, if you could keep on doing that, and we'll keep on watching flow and see what we get, and do everything we can do to have one hell of a good week. Anybody have anything else that they would like to offer?
Just got.
I mean,
oh, go ahead.
Go ahead. Nicola.
You can fuck off with all that. Straight up fuck off with all that.
They didn't get the votes necessary to increase share count, but they said that they think they can get around it.
Mm-hmm. That's exactly what you want to hear as a shareholder. Like 100%.
Right. I think that's hilarious.
What, are they going to fucking back another truck up a hill and let it go? Or worst case scenario that they did, what, last month, light a match? It's like, come on. Come on. Right? Anyways, Stonkington, you were going to say?
Yeah, just took a couple minutes this weekend. We've been talking about we're going to focus on SPX or multi-legs. So just took some time to find some, just look a little bit through SPX flow. And Phil had found and posted that massive multi-leg. And then I just kind of went through some of these others. It looks like out to next week, about 2 weeks out, we've got some very bearish shots being taken on the SPX flow. And,
which I don't want to cut you off, which can make a lot of sense because we're walking into ER season.
Yeah.
So. It's like they could be, look, if they're not going to sell off going into an overbloated ER season, then odds are they're going to put on some type of protection because we know they're not using the VIX. So it's like, look, they can all play out, but it's like it's important to understand all the factors surrounding it. That line that you posted earlier, was it basically almost like 50 million worth of bearish flow on those two lines that SPX, or was it SPY? I can't remember which one.
I'll repost it in the room.
Yeah, it's like that is not that uncommon to see walking into ER season. It is very uncommon to see after the run that we just, we have not seen any lines like that in several months, several being more like 5 months. Like that type of directional, hey, we're looking to peel some cats back. That's what it looks like to me. But again, we're walking to ER season. We have banks up first. Banks have struggled, really, really struggled, at least from a price standpoint. Yeah, just want to put some context around it, around that. And I think as a majority of people know in the room and elsewhere, I'm not bullish in any fucking capacity regarding this market. Like, I am just not. Everything about this is one big joke. And so far, the joke has been on the bear because on the bear because it keeps on melting higher. Anything else? So I can go have a cigarette so I'm not screaming in the first 5 minutes of the day?
Go get him.
Very good. All right, fellas. I'll see you guys.
Okay.